My name is Angela Wong, and I'm really excited to be talking to you guys today about executive presence. And I'm really hoping that we are going to be able to have an interactive dialogue around this topic, okay? So over the past 15 years in my career in HR, I have had countless coaching conversations with women at all levels of the organization around how to make that leap into executive leadership. Some people start young, early in their career, who are like, how do I get to CEO? How do I get to SVP? And then I have a lot of women that I talk to who are at that director level, trying to figure out how to make that leap into senior director, VP, and above. And so how many of you here are people managers? Show of hands.
People and technical.
People and technical, great. And how many of you in the room have ever been in a talent calibration or a promotion discussion? All right, so most of you. So tell me if these comments sound familiar. She does really great work, produces a lot, but I just don't see her being able to influence her peers. Yeah, right? Or I really would love to give her the opportunity to lead a team, but I'm afraid that she's not going to be inspirational enough. I'm worried that people aren't going to follow her, okay? And my favorite is, I'm not sure that I can put her in front of the executive leadership team, right? She's a little rough around the edges. What does that mean, right? And even if they're not using the words executive presence, the meaning is there, right? And because this is such a hard topic, a challenging topic to talk about and to articulate, we have a really hard time taking action. And the studies show that in corporate America, women get less feedback on executive presence than men. That women don't hear the specifics of what they need to do in order to continue to move up the ladder and to build their executive presence. So today, what I'm really hoping for is that we can have some candid conversation, that we can talk about the elephants in the room, because there are some. And what we're really going to do is break down what does executive presence look like, and hopefully you can all take away language to talk about it and some tangible actions to help build your EP even further. How does that sound to everyone? Okay, great. So, what is executive presence? Executive presence can most commonly be broken down into 3 categories: gravitas, communication, and appearance. But as you can see from the circles, they're not all created equal, right? And gravitas makes up over 60% of what executive presence means, or how it shows up and what it looks like. Who can tell me the definition of gravitas? Can you tell me what it looks like? So the Webster Dictionary definition is a very serious quality or manner. What are we supposed to do with that? How do we take action? What is the feedback that you give somebody who is trying to move up, who is trying to build their EP and their gravitas? I like pictures. I like examples. And gravitas can be broken out into 6 specific traits. The first one is self-confidence and grace under fire. The second one is decisiveness. The third is integrity / authenticity / speaking power to truth, which Stacey mentioned earlier. So the fourth is emotional intelligence, or the ability to read a room. The fifth is vision and charisma. And the sixth is reputation. And really what reputation breaks down to is your brand and what people say about you when you're not in the room. So again, what they say when you're not in the room. And while we can all agree, political affiliations aside, that Hillary Clinton is somebody who, crisis after crisis, scandal after scandal, always remains calm and collected, at least in the public. So we see her as somebody who's unruffled. When you talk about decisiveness, Indra Nooyi, who's been the CEO of PepsiCo for the past 10 years, made hard decisions in the beginning of her tenure to move the company away from sugary snacks and drinks and looking at partnerships. And because of those early on decisions that were not popular, that company is now in turnaround mode and doing much better. With integrity and speaking truth to power, Oprah has transformed her early career in kind of daytime trash TV to really living her authentic values and sharing them with the rest of the world. I think it's worked out pretty well for her, don't you? And we talk about emotional intelligence. Angelina Jolie has used her platform as a UN Goodwill Ambassador to bring the plight of the refugee situation around the globe to the forefront. And the only way that she's been able to really do that is by really understanding who her audience is and tapping into that and making sure that they really understand and can connect to what that situation looks like and making it personal. When we talk about vision and charisma, Angela Ahrendts was the former CEO of Burberry, who brought this traditional company into the 21st century by marrying fashion and technology together. She is now reimagining and re-envisioning the customer experience for Apple around the globe. And when we talk about Michelle Obama and her reputation, she's what I would call above board and very consistent in how she shows up. Whether or not you like her, you always know she's going to be poised. You know that what she stands for, and you know that she's always out there with the best intention. And so this kind of gives you a sense of what those traits look like. So the second component for executive presence is communication. And now, how many of you have been in a whole workshop all about communication, all kinds, fierce communication, you name it, right? Crucial conversations. So I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but I think I'd like to remind you of the components. And there's 3 components of communication that are pretty well known. The first is your words and what you're saying. The second is your vocal elements and how you say it. And the third are the nonverbals, which is what you look like when you're talking, right? 90% of what people hear are nonverbals, right? It's your tone, it's your pitch, it's your pace, it's your hand gestures, it's if you're fidgety. And so you really want to understand that, I think most of us, myself included, I have spent weeks now on the words. But I know that that's not what's going to resonate with all of you. It's going to be, am I speaking with conviction? Do you believe what I'm saying to you right now? Do you trust that what I'm saying is credible, right? And so a lot of that is important, but it's things that we either don't remember or we dismiss. Because sometimes it's like, oh, does it really matter how I look? It should be about my content. It should be about my substance. I can't fix my voice. I need to, how do I make my voice louder or softer or, less raspy or less high pitched? I'm not saying you need to change yourself, but I do think you need to be aware, right? And that's all there is self-awareness. So in the handouts that I gave you, one is a resource, just really quick, right? 6 basic traits. These are not all of them in terms of good communication habits. Just 6 that I thought were pretty universal. And eye contact is one. Being expressive, right? How many times do you talk to someone and they say they're really excited, but they look like this? And there's no smile, but yeah, this is the best idea ever. Does it match? Do you feel like, yeah, I believe that. That sounds like a great idea. Of course not. So it's around how do you mirror your message, What does that look like? How do you embody that, right? The other piece is, especially when we're nervous, we can tend to talk really fast. We can tend to not take a breath, and we have run-on sentences, and we keep talking, and then we run out of breath, and we can't talk anymore, right? We lose our voice. And so I encourage you guys to pause and use that pause for effect. I encourage you to take a breath, because that's going to help you to recollect and make sure you know what you're about to say next, but that also you're really listening and seeing how the room is reacting, right? And it's going to give you more gravitas when you can intentionally use those pauses. But how do we do that? We have to practice, okay? The other piece is, how do you stand? In the 6 traits for gravitas, I put on there for self-confidence, poise. And we had a little conversation up here about what does poise mean? What does that look like? Well, part of it is how you stand. How many of you are familiar with Amy Cuddy's talk on power poses? If not, I highly encourage you to look that up and watch it on TED Talks, because it talks about the importance of your physical being playing into how confident you are and how you're showing up. And now we all have little tics sometimes and things that we need to overcome. For me, I've noticed that if I'm standing for a long time listening, I'll do this, and all of a sudden I'm like lopsided. Doesn't really project poise, right? It doesn't project confidence. And so I encourage you guys to think about your stance as you're speaking, as you're presenting, and what that looks like, right? Again, it goes back to those nonverbals that are so important in making sure that you get your message across. Gestures. How many of you like to talk with your hands? What does that look like? How many of you have gotten feedback about talking with your hands? You know, too much, too little, doesn't match. Again, the whole point is that you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is not detracting from the message you're trying to present, right? You want everything you do to enhance it and to match the words that are coming out of your mouth, okay? And I put the last one here a little bit in jest, but in our technology-driven world today, we are constantly connected. And how many of you, as much as you don't want to, tend to drift and start looking at your phone, responding to that text when you're in the middle of a meeting, right? And we don't mean to do it. We don't mean to be rude. And we certainly don't mean to be showing up like the person who's talking doesn't matter. And when we talk about communication, it really is this two-way street. It doesn't matter if you're talking to someone one-on-one or if you're talking to a room of 50 people, right? It's about you being present both as a listener and as a speaker. And so I encourage you guys to really think about how to put those phones away. There was a recent study that showed when you have your phone out, even if you're not using it on the table, it detracts from your focus. Look at me. I see the phone, I lost my focus, right? But if people put their phones away, it actually changes the dynamic in the room. So I really encourage you, if you can, when you're in meetings, to have a no cell phone policy, right? So that people are really present and you can get the work done, and hopefully meetings go faster, but you're also going to be more engaged, all right? Now, I have a soon-to-be 3rd grader at home. And I printed out the scorecard that they used last year in 2nd grade. Because in 2nd grade, they start to do presentations in school. Okay, so they start to have to put together a PowerPoint or have to put together some kind of visual and have a topic that they talk about and do research. But when you look at this scorecard, it's not about the content. This scorecard is all about those nonverbals. Are you making eye contact with your audience? What does your posture look like? And it's really fun because my daughter has her presentation voice, and then she talks like this, and it's really animated and really excited. And what I love about it is that we actually get to teach our kids, younger and younger, how to build this executive presence early. Maybe we weren't taught it, or maybe it wasn't talked about in this language, but it can be learned. And that's the beauty of this topic, right? So I'm gonna skip the exercise because I think there's a lot of questions and a lot of conversation that people wanna have around this. And I'm gonna just go straight into the elephant in the room, which is appearance, okay? Appearance makes up about 10% of executive presence. That's what the studies show. However, it's the first thing you notice. It's the easiest thing to point to when you talk about executive presence. Like the comments that I made in the beginning, I don't know if I can put them in front of an executive team. They do really good work, but I don't know if they can influence. I'm not sure about their, about their work quality. Why is that? Sometimes it has nothing to do with actually how well they do their job, how influential they can be, but because people can't get over something about their appearance, they can't get through the door, okay? Does anyone know what the significance of 250 milliseconds is? First impression. A study done at Harvard Medical School showed that in 250 milliseconds, people make a judgment on how competent you are, how trustworthy you are, and how likable you are. Is that crazy? Right? We talk about bias and unconscious bias, but we are hardwired to make a snap judgment. And so we just have to be aware of that, right? We just have to bring our best self forward so that people can see that. Because you got 250 milliseconds to make an impression, right? Now, the good news is, even though you can't see the top, 35% of what makes up appearance is good grooming. Overwhelmingly, this is what people focus on and what they see when they see you. They're not looking at your clothes in terms of are they designer or not. They're not looking at, your height. But what they are looking at is, are they well groomed? Did they take a shower today? Did they make an effort today? Did they brush their hair? I'm on a team of women, as you can imagine, being in HR. And on one of my former teams, I had a manager who I love dearly, but who also cares a lot about how we look and how we show up, right? In HR, we have extra barriers in our profession that we have to overcome with our client groups sometimes. And there was one person on the team who maybe wasn't the best performer, who maybe didn't bring her best work. And like I said, the work product, it does matter. But when we talk about this person, and this is like the inside of HR that you'll never see in public, what they say about her, and I didn't work with her personally, so I don't know, but the one thing, because it sticks with me now, is that why can't she brush her hair? She never brushes her hair. Why does she look so messy? Like, that's what people say, and it correlates to how they see the work that she does. There's a manager in one of my groups, early in career, first line manager. She's known as a turnaround queen because when people come to her group who are not so great performers, she actually makes them better. She desperately wants to move up in the org. She's been applying and interviewing for different roles in other management teams. But the feedback on her is that we're not sure about her work quality. We're not sure about what she's delivering and what she's producing. And when you push a little bit more, the word sloppy comes out. Why is that? Is her work really sloppy? I don't know. But I can tell you that when people see her, that's the impression she gives. She's not showing up to work like she made an effort, right? And again, I know it's a controversial topic, it's the elephant in the room, but it's about not detracting from the message that you're trying to send. So there's a study that showed when you put on a doctor's coat, even when you're not a doctor, your confidence actually goes up, right? And it's about that suit. It's about whatever that costume embodies. And for us, I think we live in a place that's a little wonky, right? Because we are a very tech-heavy industry out here. Casual rules. Having a suit on actually is like, whoa, what is this person doing? Why are they wearing a suit? They really don't know how to read their audience. They really don't know how to read the room, right? But then you look at some of the people today. When you look at somebody like Angela Ahrens, she really commands a room when she's in it. And she has a uniform that she wears every day. It's some kind of dark bottom slacks and a jacket. And that's her uniform. It's not a full suit, but it still commands what she wants to command, right? And I think it's really important for us to think about what are we comfortable in, but that we can also continue to call forth our power, right? You look at Sheryl Sandberg in contrast to Mark Zuckerberg. We think of Facebook as the hoodie culture, right? But I don't think Sheryl Sandberg changed her style from Google to Facebook. You don't see her in jeans and a t-shirt in any of the images that you find online about her. You don't see her showing up in that way. She's probably more comfortable not in a hoodie and jeans, and that's okay, right? And that's what's gonna give her the confidence and the power to own the room. Really, I wanna leave you guys with two thoughts on executive presence. The first is, as important as executive presence is to help you to continue on your path, whatever that may be, it has to be built on a foundation of consistency, good work, and good credibility, right? Like I said earlier, executive presence, your appearance, your communication skills, they might get you in the door. But if you don't have that substance to back it up, it's actually gonna hurt you in the long run, right? Because people are gonna feel like it's empty, And the other piece is, especially here in the Valley, I think it's difficult sometimes for us to marry our authenticity with the environment that we're in. But without the ability, or without us being able to show up as who we are and what we care about and what we're passionate about, anything you do is gonna seem a little hollow. And I think you guys can think of those people who maybe go through the motions, but you don't really feel like they're in it to win it. You don't feel like they're really there, right? And if you're not present, you're not gonna have that gravitas. You're not going to have that executive presence. It's gonna continue to carry you, okay? I have some resources for you guys on the back page. I hope that we can continue this dialogue and have it be one where we now have some language around it. And I thank you for your time today. And I hope we can all go into happy hour and this final closing with a lot of energy. So, thanks.